Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be chatting with you about what I have read in December thus far and give you my opinions on everything. Let's dive in. So I've only read 3 books so far in December, and if I was an ordinary human being, that would probably be really great. But for me, it's not really great. It's not a lot, and it's just been so busy with Vlogmas and life in general. It's just been busy, and I've just been having a hard time picking up books. That said, I've read 3, I'm reading 2, so let's just dive into what I have read. We're gonna start, as we usually do, with the tippy top and work our way down. But honestly, it's been an amazing reading month thus far in terms of quality of literature that I've been reading. The first book I want to chat with you about is Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. Excuse me as I drink my Christmas blend. Needed a venti today, let me tell you. So the Nevermore series is a wonderful middle grade series about a little girl named Morgan Crow who is essentially thinks that she's cursed her whole life, and she is meant to die, I think on her 12th or 13th birthday, but she's actually rescued by a man and whisked away to Nevermore, and you follow her trying to get into a school there. The third book, Hollowpox, follows, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it follows a group of Wunimals. You'll find out more about those creatures. They're more than animals. They're more human than animals, but they kind of take animal form. And there's this, essentially like a plague, a great illness harming these Wunimals, and Morgan gets involved and tries to get to the bottom of it. I have loved this series, but this book was my favorite of the whole series. It's really, I was at the edge of my seat the whole time reading it. I listened to it on audio. I so recommend the audio. I found Morgan really just, she's coming into her own at this place, I find. And I really cared. It was also incredibly magical. So I'd so highly recommend the Nevermore series if you are into middle grade. And this is such a good time of year to read it. Next, I read a Christmassy romance book, Who Am I? This is One Day in December. Here, I'll actually put down my coffee. I'll part with my coffee to hold the book. One Day in December is a bit of a Christmassy book. It's not overly heavy on the Christmas, but we follow a guy and a girl who happen to see each other. She is on a bus looking out, and he's at a bus stop, and they have this moment, and I think they realize, like, oh my goodness, who is that person? I think they're the love of my life, basically. And then the moment passes and they don't see each other again until like a year later, her best friend says, hey, I want you to meet my boyfriend. And it just so happens to be that guy. Now, I found this to be really funny. So I gave it 4 stars. I could not stop chuckling through this. It reads a lot like Bridget Jones. It's got that kind of English sense of humor that I really enjoy. And I was partly wanting them to never get together, partly wanting them to get together. And I really enjoyed reading it. It was such an easy read, and I just blew through this one, honestly. I was struggling to read generally, but for some reason, I didn't really find it too hard to read this one. So that's One Day in December. Really recommend. And so here's where I feel a little bit guilty. Sometimes you read a book, you know that one is better than the other, but you give the other... I'll just explain. I'm giving 3 stars to Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. And now, so here's the thing. This is 10 million times better written than this. Like, no one can say otherwise. Literally no one can say otherwise. But I just didn't connect with this the way I usually do with Jacqueline Woodson's writing. I will say her writing is short. Her books, I should say, are short. This book is under 200 pages, and I wanted it to be longer. So this follows essentially two storylines. We follow a young girl who has gotten into the college of her dreams. It's also the college that her family has gone to. And her mother is really struggling with it because her mother ended up getting pregnant quite young before she was meant to go to this college. And it shifted everything in her life. And her parents weren't incredibly understanding all the time of, you know, her pregnancy, and were, I don't want to use the word ashamed, but a little bit like disappointed. And so here's her daughter finally going to the school that she was supposed to. So there's a lot of mixed feelings when we dive into the mom's past and how things came about. And I thought it was an incredibly honest book about, I think it's an incredibly honest book where she says the things that probably people in the situation would have in their heads but wouldn't say. And we get into their heads. And I really did enjoy that. This book wasn't as lyrical as her other books usually are. Her other books, like Brooklyn and Another Brooklyn, those books read like poetry, and I didn't feel that way with this book. It was very good though. So it was one of those things where I liked it, wanted more, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. Still very, very good. Would highly recommend picking that up. Coffee break. Okay, now let's talk about the 2 books that I am reading currently. One is a thriller, just an easy thriller. This is No Exit by Taylor Adams. I'm reading this along with my Patreons. This is the December pick, and I'm really liking it. I'm vlogging my way through it, although I will say I'm having a hard time vlogging my way through because I'm also vlogging for Vlogmas, and so I'm getting confused. Anyway, this is a gripping story about a woman who is trying to get home to her mother who is dying of cancer, but she's driving in a snowstorm and like it's not going well. She has to pull off at a rest stop. And when she's going inside, she sees in the back of another parked vehicle a young girl, a little girl stuck in a cage. And she realizes that someone in the actual rest stop has kidnapped this child and put them in the cage, and who knows what they're going to do with this child. This is incredibly tense. I am loving this book so far. I'm not that far. I'm 100 pages in. I love it. I'm really liking it. It's gripping. I don't mind the main character. I kind of feel like the choices that she makes are kind of stupid sometimes, but I don't know what I would do in this situation. I think we all have this idea in our head of how we would handle it and that it would all work out fine, but like it feels kind of realistic. It's the perfect book to read right now, and I'm really enjoying it. And then, oh my gosh, I'm listening to A Promised Land by Barack Obama. If you can get this on audio, oh, I so recommend it. It is, firstly, so wonderful to hear his voice again. I really respect Barack Obama. I respect all of the Obamas. And he just has so much grace. He has so much, a bit of a self-deprecating kind of sense of humor. He's very honest in this book. Now, I think when he was writing his, I guess, memoirs of his experience in office, he decided to split it into two, obviously for the 2 terms. That's what I'm assuming, because we're in the first term right now. And I really find it interesting to read his perspective, because I think we all have these ideas of like what you should be able to get done in office. And I think it's actually much more complicated and difficult than we all imagine it to be, or at least that I imagined it to be. And it's a lot of diplomacy and working with others and trying to convince other people, but also bending yourself. And I just am really adoring this book. Like, I would be shocked if I didn't give it 5 stars. So that's what I'm reading right now, and that's everything that I have read thus far. It's not very much, but it's been a good reading month considering. So I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know in the comments below what you are reading right now. I hope you're reading some good stuff. Are you reading like exclusively Christmas books or holiday books? Because I feel like a lot of people are drawn to that at this time of year, which I am too. Anywho, hope you're well, and I'll chat with you soon. Bye, everybody.